The No Nonsense Roundtable. It's a weekly show broadcast on Rochester, New York's 50,000-watt iHeart radio station, News Radio Wham 1180. The host, Dom Geneva, interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. What you are about to hear is a recording of a previous broadcast with limited commercials. Now, here's host, Dom Geneva.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of the No Nonsense Roundtable. And again, a show about people you know, you want to know more about, and people you may not know, but you should know. And I have in my studio today a fellow who I've spent probably about an hour with already, Jimmie Highsmith. And Jimmie Highsmith is a musician, composer, all-round good guy. And Jimmie, why don't you explain a little bit about yourself and how I should really introduce you. Go ahead.
You did fine, brother. I'm another guy in the struggle. How about that, of life, trying to create something great and contribute to society in a positive way. How about that? Will that work?
Well, that's not that. That's the 30,000-foot view of somebody who's been very, very successful and is very entertaining and very talented. Now, Jimmie, I met Jimmie because I forget what organization I was at, and you were playing your saxophone, and just the sweetest. I mean, not everybody that plays an instrument can make music, but you make music, and I guess it's called. It's been called kind of cool jazz. Is mainly what you do. Is that what I can explain it for it?
I'm a musician, and I try to play sincere music. I guess my records have been put into the smooth jazz genre, but I don't want to say I'm a smooth jazz artist. I'm I guess an urban contemporary artist. I live in a city, and my music is contemporary based, but it is infused with a lot of different styles. I have a very eclectic taste in music, from country and western to southern rock to traditional jazz to R&B. I mean, if you look at my record collection, you'll be surprised to see Leonard Skinner, you see Rush, you see Patsy Cline, you see Jeff Tyson and Chuck Mangione, you'll see John Coltrane, you'll see a lot of different music. I like good music. I don't, I hate labels. I like to explore life.
Yeah, you don't want to be pigeonholed into something. Exactly. Now, the question I always ask, and I've gotten to really enjoy this question, is what did you want to do when you were 10 years old? Were you always interested in music, or has this been a crooked path?
Absolutely not. I am a science geek. If I had my choice, if I can go back in time, I'd be a NASA climatologist. No, I'm a huge fan of meteorology and physics. Actually, I spent time on the Eddie Meese show as a kid, actually, with science projects. I created science circuitry, DC circuits I built as a grade schooler. I started playing piano at 6 and saxophone at 8 years old. And so music became the path of least resistance. But the whole time I was in every science club, every chess club you can imagine. And to this day, I am in an online meteorology collaborative where we do climate predictions. And I predicted last year we would have less than 60 inches of snow in Rochester, and I won that competition, $100. So
that's very, very interesting. And physics and from there, now the question, I interviewed a few months ago. He's become a very good friend of mine, Scott Mayo, and Scott Mayo said, "Well, your mother encouraged you to play a musical instrument." He says, "Yeah, it started with a clarinet." He goes, "Because it was small." So that's how he ended up with a clarinet. Now, you say you started playing the piano, but pianos back in the day, you're not talking about a keyboard, you're talking about piano.
Yeah.
So how'd you have a piano in your house?
I didn't.
Oh, really?
My grandfather was a touring musician with Lionel Hampton and
really?
And Louis Armstrong, my mother's father. Also one of the first commissioned colored officers in the Army Air Corps back in World War II. So music on my mother's side is very rich and deep. My uncles and grandfather were instrumental in the creation of the Colored Musicians Club in Buffalo. They're from only in New York, actually. My mother is. So music has always been in my bloodline, per se. And so when I was in first grade, they offered a music class at my grade school. And it's bittersweet because, unfortunately, it was my first experience with racism. I didn't realize it. And an opportunity to play music because my piano teacher was a little old German lady who had a little pet name for me called Little Nigger Boy.
Oh.
Oh yeah, I didn't know what that meant. No, I didn't know what that meant back then. I had no idea. So I mean, I thought it was this little cute, enduring name. So I go, Mom, I got a new nickname. She's like, what? Little Nigger Boy. My mother lost her whole mind. So she went to school, and piano ceased to exist at that point. So then I moved to saxophone. Actually, what happened is Terrence Bruce just finished college at Alford and was a substitute teacher for the school district, and came in. My music teacher was Mr. Williams at the time, was out sick. So Terrence came in with his saxophones and gave a demonstration. Now I'm 8 years old. I'm like, this is an amazing instrument. I want to play saxophone. Oh, yeah. So told my dad that, and I got me in Hochstein's. I studied with Dr. Carl Atkins and Dr. John Vitale then. And it's funny you mentioned Scott Mail, because if there were not been a Scott Mail, there would not be a Jimmie Highsmith Jr., because Scott was my mentor. Scott's I think 4 years ahead of me. So when I was in middle school, he was in high school, and Scott was the man around here as a sax player.
Really?
Oh yeah. So I'm like, man, I want to be like that guy over there, Scott Mail. So I emulated Scott when we talked about this. I emulated him when I was in high school. I want to be just like Scott Mail. And I think one of the greatest things was I was on tour, and I was I think I was in Indiana somewhere in a hotel room. And I just got done with my show, and I'm sitting there watching BET, and they're showing the Sinbad concert in Jamaica, and they have Earth, Wind and Fire, right? And they playing the song Reason. The guy goes, and on saxophone, Mr. Scott Mail. I'm like, oh my God, Scott Mail! My lung in the hotel room. Like, that's my guy, Scott Mail. And it was just great to see Scott. And Scott's a very dear friend who I know like a brother. So Scott was a huge influence on me as a teenager.
Well, I want everyone to know that Scott Mayo's been on the show a couple of times, become a very good friend, and you can interview on NoNonsenseRoundtable.com. But also, he's in LA now. He was, Sergio Mendes just passed away, but he was the musical director for Sergio Mendes. And you could see him on The Voice. I mean, he's playing and dancing on The Voice. And a Rochester guy. I mean, just an absolute Rochester guy. I had no idea that you were friends with him or he was your mentor.
I guess the best story is Scott has so many great stories, but I love Scott always says to me, he's like, Jimmy, I was on the road with Bruce Springsteen, and I go, how did the kid from Henrietta get here?
That's right.
And that's what he says all the time. Like, how did that kid from Henrietta get here? I mean, he's worked with so many great artists. He's a true treasure to the Rochester music scene, and his resume is so vast of all the things he's done. Right. It's amazing.
And just recently inducted into the Rochester Music Hall of Fame. Yes. The story he told, though, this isn't about you were using some of your time for Scott, but he says, he played on one of Paul McCartney's albums.
Exactly. He sang, actually. Yeah.
And he says he's talking to Sir Paul.
Yes.
And Sir Paul says to him, he says, aren't we lucky?
Exactly.
We get the chance to do what we were meant to do. What a sweet story that is.
I guess my last Scott Mill story will be this. And with that same weekend he was in, weekend during the Jazz Fest, his son, Michael Mill, who was an amazing singer. You got to check him out, Michael Mill.
Oh, yeah.
Was in town for the Jazz Fest. Scott honored me. I called Scott and said, hey, man, I'm in the studio recording a new album at Linden Oaks. You mind stopping by and just, adult supervision for me? He's like, how can I play on it? I said, what? So we would do what coming out? Me and Scott Mail. So to have my mentor with me in the studio playing one of my songs, I can't begin to tell you how great that feeling was. So that's going to be out real soon. So, and that's my Scott Mail stuff.
Well, that's wonderful. So we're about ready to head to a break, and when we do, we'll start talking about you.
Exactly.
This is Dom. Hey, I love my old Shelby Mustang convertible, but under no circumstances do I drive it during the winter. I store it at the Car Club of Rochester on Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road. If you have a car to be stored, they have an immaculate climate-controlled facility that looks more like a museum. They can also doll up your ride, or you can buy the products to do it yourself at their car boutique. Check them out at carclubrochester.com. That's carclubrochester.com. This is Dom from my friend Jim Shelley at his Fanatics Pub and Blues Stage in Lima. We talk all the time about the great blues shows he has, and his patios open on weekends for free entertainment. Jim also has the Bills game on every Sunday. You can go there and watch the Bills in a setting that's more like, Cheers than a big impersonal sports bar. Exit 10, Route 390, go east a couple of miles and you're there. I'll be there. Come say hello. Well, welcome back. We are talking with Jimmie Highsmith, who's a wonderful musician and fellow that I think everybody should get to meet, because he's, besides being that and being a very humble and organized fella, he's also a hoot. I have. There are people that come on the show and they are hoots. We were talking about Scott Mayo, and one of the things I talked about with Scott Mayo is I asked the question. Can you when you play, can you read music or not read music? Because
yes, I read music. I started Hochstein's. I went to Eastman also, School of Music as well. So I do read and play most of the woodwinds as well as keyboards, a little drum, a little bass guitar as well. So yes.
A lot of musicians I find can, but some of them can't. I mean, so that's an interesting concept to me. I mean, you pick up a piece of music and you hear it in your mind.
Well, I that's a beautiful thing for me and people like Scott. We can look at a piece of music and actually read it and know what it sounds like from reading it. Unfortunately, nowadays, and I was just having this talk with the RCSD school board, music is not a priority in the schools anymore, particularly in the city schools. So these kids aren't being taught how to play music. Most, particularly in the city kids, they learn it in church. Means they play drums, guitar, or keyboard, and usually by ear, not actually learning the notes. And then one of my biggest pet peeves with a lot of church musicians is the keyboard players transpose the keyboards into one key. They don't know the scales.
Oh, okay.
It's like, come on, learn. I mean, to me, I don't dump on musicians who cannot read music, but there's so much more you can do if you read music. It's like being able to read a book versus not being able to read a book. You're so limited in life as to what your opportunities are because you don't have the ability to read, or read a book. And music is the same. I get a phone call to do a recording session. I can make a little money doing that because I can read charts, where if you can't read charts, you can't make that same money. So it gives you more tools in your tool chest to survive. And again, there's so much more you can do and appreciate in being able to read music. So I definitely encourage folks to learn.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Let's do a little bit more of a spotlight with you. You've played with some very, very famous people and done some very, very, very good work. So let's get a little bragging out of you, okay?
I don't brag. Well, I want to go back to being.
Our listeners have to listen to something. So let's try that. You were talking about Alicia Keys the other day. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny. I first met Alicia before she became superstar Alicia Keys. When she first got her record deal with J Records, there was a guy in town named Roland Williams. He's an NFL player. He played 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Good friend of mine. He just signed his major deal. He wanted to have a big gala here in Rochester, rent out the entire Riverside Convention Center, and he had a concert, and it featured myself and Alicia Keys. And Alicia called me on the phone because I was putting together a band for here in Rochester. Yeah. And it was a very humble conversation, which led to me being able to open up for her on some other dates. And she was a really cool person and very beautiful and very talented. But, I'm humble for a reason. I go back to, let's say, 1989. I was living in the Philadelphia area. I was currently in the Air Force, and I had a residency at a club in Philadelphia called Zanzibar Blue. And it was a very nice jazz club, and me and some other cats in the Army and the Air Force played a set there. And every now and then we'd let people come sit in with us, but they were always notable people. And this one day, this guy walked in, and I can tell you that Julius Cowworth saxophone. That's a very expensive saxophone with a very unique case. And the guy couldn't be more than 5'7" tall. And I'm looking, okay, who's this? And it's Grover Washington Jr. And he comes up with the most gracious attitude and says, "May I sit in?" I'm like, "Here's my horn. What do you want to play?" And we played some of my music and some of his music. And the fact that this gentleman was so kind to me, he's from Buffalo, so now I'm his nephew from Rochester down the road. He says, "I'm from Rochester," and after playing with Grover Washington and meeting Grover Washington and seeing how humble and gracious and grateful he is, I could never get the big head. Yeah. Who am I to ever get the big head? So I've been very fortunate to share the stage and meet many great musicians from the Wooten Brothers, Alicia Keys, Whit Marsalis, Wycliffe Gordon. There's countless musicians I've met over the years. You know, Everett Harp, Jeff Lorber. We did a thing together last year. Myself, Jeff Lorber, Everett Harp, and Paul Jackson Jr. And to the airplane down south. It was great. And everybody I've met and worked with has been nothing but nice to me. So how can I be a butthole? I mean, seriously. And I know the guys out there who are jerks.
Yeah, well, that's true.
But I just can't be that guy.
Yeah.
And I feel, you know, I've been blessed. I've been to 4 continents, over 50 countries in the last 30-odd years. This is a gift God gave me. Not that I'm some brilliant musician, but I mean, I got a Grammy nomination. I mean, I'm fortunate, I'm grateful. Yeah. And I feel mandated by God to try to contribute something positive and beautiful to the world for the gift He's given me. Yeah. And that's my attitude.
Yeah, no, that's a great attitude to have. You know, and the thing is that I don't want to talk about Scott again. Scott said to me something. It seems to be exactly what you're talking about. He says, you know, God gives you a gift. He says, but you also have to work.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He says,
gotta practice.
He said, and let me kind of throw this out to you. Maybe it's a little bit of a controversial thing, but you know, Scott was saying, he says a lot of the kids these days, he says they have talent, but they don't want to put the work in. Do you see that?
Absolutely, across the board. When we were kids. You know, I remember being a kid. I remember the TV show Big Blue Marble.
Yeah.
I had a pen pal. We mailed cards. We played chess over the mail over 2 months playing chess.
Really?
Mailing cards back to each other, moves. You know, we used to wait for stuff. We had to wait for popcorn. We had to wait for TV dinner. We had to wait for everything. These kids now get everything instantaneously. They text. Right. They have no patience. Yeah. They have no imagination. Yeah. Everything is just so and processed and given to them. And even like, nowadays, I was at an event last week and I saw this kid play giant steps, and he played John Coltrane's scale verbatim, solo verbatim. Yeah. Because you can go to YouTube now, you can slow the music down in key and learn by ear. But he has no idea about the song. I said, you understand the song Giant Steps? It changes key 3 times and it moves in 2/5 once. What do you mean, Mr. Highsmith? Yeah. I go, bro, it's great you can play this song, but you need to understand the music. Yeah. But they don't have the patience to learn stuff.
Well, I was talking to Jack Alaco, and Jack says he practices his guitar like an hour and a half a day, and Jack isn't. The guy's got 11 Emmys, for God's sakes. He doesn't need to be doing that. He's not playing guitar for a living either.
You know, doing that.
Really, geez, wow.
No, you have to practice.
Really?
If I don't get at least 2 hours a day in, which is hard sometimes.
Really?
I feel guilty.
Wow.
You lose stuff. You don't use it, you lose it. You gotta practice. Your chops are your chops. You can't. I mean, I remember I had a tooth pulled, so I couldn't play for almost a week. And I had a gig, and I struggled. I struggled. Now, no one knew I struggled, but I struggled because I hadn't played my chops for a week. I got tired, my jaws hurt. I couldn't do my artisanal right. I mean, no one noticed, but I noticed. So, no, you got to practice, bro. You cannot not practice. You got to play something every day. And I try to do one day piano, one day sax, one day flute. I do a variety of things, but I'm playing music every day one way or another.
Yeah, I think, well, you know, I've seen, I'm so glad I have you here because I've seen you here and I've seen you there. I think the last time I saw you was at Malik's inaugural ball or whatever it was. And it's just you. I mean, you're captivating an audience, just you. And we're about ready to head into a break, but we were talking before the show about your philosophy of engaging people and the way that you think about your audience and stuff. And we're going to get into that right after the break that's coming up. But I think that's worth talking about and discussing then. But at that, we are headed into a news break, and we're going to see you on the other side. This is Dom for my friend John McClurg. John has 2 dealerships, McClurg Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and McClurg Chevrolet, both in Perry. Hey, you don't buy a car all that often, so when you do, shouldn't you go to a place you can put your trust in? You can depend on McClurg. John's dealerships are family dealerships, where people you deal with today are the people you will deal with tomorrow. No nonsense. Go visit them at McClurg-ChryslerDodgeJeep.com or McClurg-Chevrolet.com. Well, welcome back. We're talking to a very talented individual in the music business, Jimmie Highsmith. And Jimmie, we were just talking about, before the break, your philosophy of what you do and your relationship with the audience. And I think that's a pretty good thing to discuss. So why don't you go ahead when you perform?
Well, my life is changing. I'm now semi-retired from being a performer. I have a new job. I'm now the CEO of the Experience Live Music Group. And essentially what that is I'm promoting concerts, festivals, and tours. So I use that same philosophy. I try to put together a show with artists who will take time to connect with the audience and engage them. They're going to spend their money to see you. You want to connect with them. You want to minister to them with your music, with your art form. So it's very important to me when I hire artists for the festivals I program that they have the ability to do just that. Don't just get on stage and play some music. I want you to engage the audience. I want to hear original material. I don't mind playing cover songs, but I'd rather hear a 60-40, 70-30 split. Even if your songs suck, I appreciate your effort of playing original material over just being a paid jukebox. But I think it's so important, even as an artist, as I'm playing, to engage the audience. So the show you saw, I play for Malik. It's called the Just Jimmie Show. I have about 300 digitally mastered backing tracks of my own music and songs I've produced. I have a nice little bow system. And I play it, and it's a solo sax show. But I try to pick songs that, one, I think the audience would like to hear, but importantly, I try to present them in a way that it engages them. That, what's he playing over there? What's he doing? And draw you in.
Right.
And we have a conversation. Even though we're not saying anything verbally, emotionally, we're having a conversation. I want it to be sincere from my heart, and I want you to feel it. One of the greatest stories I have is terrible. I used to have this I used to have this thing. I say I have CRS. Can't remember S. Can't say the word because I want to curse online. And my wife's like, you can't say that. Yeah. So I was out in California playing, and I was in Vail, Colorado playing. And I had this couple came backstage, and they had a son named Alfred James after me. And I go, we're your biggest fans. We conceived our son off one of your songs off my. I was like, that's nice, And I guess they met me years ago, and I'm like, I said, I'm really sorry. I have this disease, CRS, so I don't remember meeting you guys. But I was, oh my God, you have CRS. But we pray for you. They're like Christians. I go, So they got deep. Father God touched brother Jimmie. They got this deep prayer. I mean, deep prayer. I'm going to burn in hell with gasoline draws. What I just said. In my mind, I'm saying this, right? So when it's all said, they're like, oh man, well, my brother's a neurologist. What's your plan of treatment? Maybe he can help you. I go, actually, CRS is an acronym for I can't remember SHIT. Man, his wife was so pissed. They were so mad. So I stopped saying that. They thought I was serious.
Well, at least you didn't go down to the town hall trying to get one of those parking passes for a handicap. I mean, what do you have? I have CRS. Oh my God, that's well, you're a creative guy in more ways than one. But I respect that. I hear. People say I love music. I love musicians more than I love music because you're doing something that's totally human. I mean, a bird will sing, but a bird doesn't make up the song. It's in the bird, but you're creating something that is existing after you're gone. And the thing that I have a lot of respect for is when I hear an artist say, I don't care if there's 4 people in the audience or 40,000 people in the audience. It's my responsibility to take that person who paid money to see me to get the best that I have. It was Joe DiMaggio's. And
yes.
that I don't know if you know the Joe DiMaggio story. He's leasing up once, and he's having a double header on a hot day, and everybody else is complaining. He says, I'm doing this. He says, maybe somebody hasn't seen me before.
Exactly. I mean,
I need to perform for them.
And I tell my students who I teach privately, and I tell all musicians, when you play a show, I don't care if it's for a freaking lunchroom at a senior center for 20 people or at Hollywood Bowl, give your best performance. You never know who's watching or listening. I've gotten tours and gigs because somebody said they saw me somewhere. You never know who's listening. So always give your most sincere, honest effort when on stage, whether it's in front of one person or 1 million people. And again, even your practice time, at some point, practice like you're in a concert somewhere. Literally, get used to having that feeling. Close your eyes and imagine you're at CMEC in front of 20,000 people and practice like that. The connection is so important. Again, people are paying good money. It might be their rent money they're paying to see you. Yeah. So, be conscious of that and be grateful and give them the best you can give them. Don't shortchange them. And I love good music. I can't say I love all music. A lot of music today, to me, I call it a sonic collage. They just mix and sample things together. There's no effort in it. They're just trying to market something and put it out there. I'd rather hear somebody create something, even if it doesn't sound that great, but the fact that they put the effort in to create something, I appreciate that and respect that. Make an effort to contribute something.
Well, and I think a lot of it has to do with kind of maybe the way you were brought up or the values in your life, because you understand what your product is. Your product is to engage and entertain. And as a marketing guy, I tell other marketing people, I say you always talk about impressions. It's not impressions, it's engagement.
Exactly.
It's getting into somebody's heart and soul, where they say, oh, man, you have to see. It's sort of like the Wegmans thing. Not for I won't mention any other grocery stores. But Wegmans, especially the one in Pittsburgh, is like, wow, you got to see this. My daughter's bringing people in when she's in college, her roommates, to go take a look at Wegmans. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for that. Wow, that's something I haven't seen before, and I want to tell somebody about it. And so that's why when I see you, it's like, wow, I saw this guy, and he's just him and the saxophone. Wow, he's really cool. I should invite him on the show. I mean, that's how you get there. Or you see the Eclipse Spectacular they had, or Jack Alaco just conducted 140 people at Nazareth, that theater. That I had no idea they had that theater.
Oh, it's beautiful.
My God, it's gorgeous.
I played that.
Wow, wow. But you're coming out there and you go, wow. Like you're going to say about the show after the show is over.
Exactly. I'm already there, brother.
This very show. Go ahead.
I'm already there, brother. I'm already there. No, but you're right. Branding is so important. Another example, I was on tour, and myself and the keyboard player had CDs that were shrink wrapped with barcodes, and the guitar player had a CD he made at Kinko's. So we had our CDs at the merch table, and we sold out. He sold none. I'm like, bro, it's branding. My CD may not sound like dog crap, but it looks as good as Najee's CD.
Yeah.
You got a CD that sounds great, but looks like dog crap. They're not going to buy your CD. Invest in yourself first, but build your brand. I had set a birthday concert that sold out.
Yeah, no, okay.
And it sold out because they know what they're going to get at my show.
Yeah.
It's branding.
Yeah.
You can't beat that. You gotta build your brand and stick to it.
No. I'm a totally believer in that, because my car dealerships were a no nonsense car dealer. So I had non-commissioned salespeople, right? And we didn't have a finance manager or whatever. And what you found was that people would recommend other people, and so that's how you grow a regenerative crop.
Exactly.
That's the difference between apples and corn. You have the apple tree produces more apple trees for you, every year, and you don't have to do much for it. But that's what you're talking about. Talking about branding, and that I think that's lost on a lot of people that perform. They think it's just the performance and the sound of it. No, you have to engage people. And with that, believe it or not, we're going into another break. And this is going to be the retail break, so you can talk about anything that you want to sell. Okay. How about that? Okay. This is Dom from my friends at Jack Greco Furniture. You drive your car, you live with your furniture. That's why Nita and I buy our furniture locally from Jack Greco. Hey, lots of old name furniture manufacturers switch to mass production, producing their furniture who knows where. Why settle for that? Jack has quality pieces made by true craftsmen, and if you need a custom piece, Jack can do that for you too. The season's upon us. Jack has quality outdoor furniture you won't find anywhere else. Go to jackgreco.com. Well, welcome back. We're talking to Jimmie Highsmith, soon to be one of my best friends, I think.
That's a real honor, brother.
No. You don't know me well enough.
No,
say that's an honor.
Wait
till you get to know me.
We have enough mutual friends who speak very highly of you, bro. That's why you're Dommy G.
Dommy G. My new nickname.
Listen, it was a great. I live in the city. It was about a half hour ride out here. Yeah. It was a great ride. I gotta come back on my motorcycle though.
Oh yeah.
Because it's a great ride. It was just very peaceful. I could actually meditate while I was driving. So yeah, and we have a lot of mutual friends. So to be considered a best friend, that's what I call brother. That's a good thing, bro. That's a good thing.
Well, I'm honored to hear you say that. Now let's spend a second or two. Thank you for your service. You're in the Air Force, you said, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because I mean seriously, thank you for doing.
So that story is long and short of it is, I had a girlfriend that I really shouldn't have had a girlfriend, was a girlfriend, and she got pregnant. I was in college, so I left college to join the Air Force Band, drove down to Bolling Air Force Base to audition for the Air Force Band, and it was not what I thought it was going to be. Well, because actually we don't march. We're stage bands, we're concert bands, and you have everyone who joins the military has to take what's called an ASVAB exam. It's a battery test to show your aptitude. And the higher you score, the more job options you have.
Right.
So I initially was going to the Air Force Band, but realized it was not what I wanted it to be. So I went into the Air Force logistics intelligence side of the business. So I worked for a 3-star in a command post and a very, very cool military career. I left the Air Force as a staff sergeant. I left because I got a record deal.
Oh, wow.
But I would have easily done my 20 years. And sometimes I wish I stayed in, did my 20 years in the Air Force. I'm still very involved with a lot of the veterans. I have friends who retired Air Force and retired military. And being a veteran is like a fraternity.
Yeah.
And one thing about being a vet, you can recognize other vets real quick. There's a certain stature we all share, a certain walk, a certain energy we all share, and you recognize that right away. And it's a real honor to be a veteran, to say I took that oath to serve this great nation.
Well, your propensity for math and science that you developed as a child had to be the effect seen with that test that you took, I would think.
Oh yeah, and I'm just good. I'm a tactician, which works well for my new job.
Yes.
Being able to compartmentalize and strategize and put things where they need to be and organizing without being stressed. I live a stress-free life. Believe it or not, I have no stress.
Wow, God bless you. God bless you. I make stress for myself. I mean, it's my only talent.
I mean, I'm also a martial artist. I'm a black belt. I've been studying martial arts for 42 years of my life. So between that philosophy and my meditation and my faith, all of that, I don't get stressed too often. I give people God's grace.
So you got a record deal too when you left the service. Now, what was that record deal?
With Variance Records, a little independent company, and and I did my first CD called Passive Thoughts back in 2002, and it did really well. I got some really good radio play around the nation and made some noise.
And where do we get these now?
Well, online now, they're all out of print. So I know there's some online. There's some record stores around the country that have record locally. I know Record Archive and Bops. I have some of my records. I recorded 11 CDs.
Wow!
But I mean, nowadays people don't buy CDs anymore. They download everything. They stream.
Apple and stuff like that.
That's a sore subject.
I know. Well, and I talked to some of these guys. I talked to Chuck Bricado. He says, well, in the day, at Motown, and the echo chamber was the basement.
Exactly.
There wasn't a machine that did this for you. No. And then I was talking to Felix Cavalieri. He says these days you have auto tune. He says it's not. It says it's not the same as it was back then. He says back in the day you had to be a real craftsman.
Oh yeah, I mean, you look at I'm not gonna say names.
Yeah.
And there was a great interview that Kurt Whalum did that pissed a lot of people off about today's smooth jazz. Like there's a certain station, I won't say the name of the station, that plays smooth jazz, and everything sounds the same. It's all produced the same way. And a lot of horn players are using auto-tune on their horns. They're pitch shifting their horns. My records all say no auto-tune. I go and I record it. If it's flat, I play it again and again and again until I get it right. But nowadays, you don't have an A&R anymore. You don't have artist development anymore. People, nowadays, you have to have a product. You have to have social media engagement, something they can make money on immediately. There's no development. No one's handling you anymore. So you have all this stuff that's just It's just produced. It's not as sincere as it was, say, back in the 80s or even the 90s. It's changed.
You know what this is analogous to is that I would rather have an old record on my stereo rather than a CD. There's something about the music with a CD that seems so much, I don't know, harsher or something or other.
I was just talking to Kurt.
I don't know what it is. You just don't have the depth.
Me and Curtis Kendrick, who's another mentor of mine, Cabo Frio. Remember Cabo Frio? He's here in Rochester. We were talking about that. My first album versus my last album. How much better it sounded because it was recorded on 2-inch reel. Much warmer versus recording.
Right, warmer is the right word.
So when my newest album sounds great, it's done digitally. It's colder.
Yes.
You know, we've got a lot going on with it, with horns and this and that. The natural warmth of tape is not there, unfortunately.
Yeah, my daughter is a professional photographer. She does a lot of stuff for New York Times and stuff. And she talks about color temperature a lot.
Exactly.
It's very similar to that, I would imagine.
It's the same thing, exactly. But technology does. That's just when you're dealing with digital, you're dealing with squares.
Yeah.
Versus waves.
Yeah. So one of the things we were talking about is your new job, and you're saying that gave you the most fun. Let's talk about the website for that.
The website is going to be Experience. That's XPERIENCE liveevents.com, and we're a company that promotes festivals, concert tours, theater dates, just events in general. Go to the website, you see some of the things we've done. You can contact us, and we do stuff all over the world. I'm going to South Africa in December. I'll be in Bermuda, I think, in February. We got a lot planned next year, and a lot planned here in Rochester in particular for the 30th anniversary of the Rock Summer Soul Festival. Stay tuned for that.
You say South America or South Africa?
South Africa.
South Africa?
Yes.
Really? That's
Going
really
there
cool.
In December, yes.
Yeah, and then Bermuda?
And next year, yes, we're going to be doing some stuff there as well.
Oh, that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
It's very cool. I can see why you're happy.
Exactly.
So where's the next place we can see you here?
I'm doing a fundraiser for a radio station. Can I say the name of the station?
Absolutely.
WGMC. We're doing a fundraiser for them on the second Friday, I think it's the Friday the 13th of December. Myself, Bill Tiberio, and Bakari Smith, three sax players, called a Smooth Saxy Christmas, a fundraiser for them. Smooth jazz, Christmas songs at the Greece Apollo Theater. Go to the website, jazz91.org, and get tickets there for that show.
Well, it's a charity show, right?
It's a charity show. All the money goes to the radio station.
So the people on the station can't get too ticked off at me.
No, it's a charity.
At least not for that reason.
No, we're raising money for a not-for-profit station, public. It's public radio, whatever you call it. But the point is, they don't do advertising. Yeah, it's a great community station. I actually have a radio show there on Saturday mornings called Smooth Jazz Central. So.
Yeah.
So that's that.
so believe it or not, we have about another 30 seconds left or so. How would you like to leave this?
Dami G, it's been a pleasure, brother, man. You're my new brother from another mother, as they say. And I thank you for allowing me to grace this wonderful space. And I look forward to coming back again and chopping up, brother, man. And that's it.
Well, I got to tell you, this is what I live for. You have somebody over to my studio, spend some time with them, get to know them, and have a relationship that I know this time will develop over time. And I'll make you some food. Yeah, next time you can come back, I'll make you some food.
I'm around for a reason.
Okay. Okay, everybody. 10 o'clock, same place here next week. It's the No Nonsense Roundtable.
Thanks for listening. Tune in every Saturday from 10 to 11 on News Radio Wham 1180. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll make more.